Hello, welcome to AP Sources Simplified. We are finishing up our contextualization in our AP test review series. We have a big topic to put into context today: the Great Depression and New Deal. I'm also going to discuss the Dust Bowl and its effects. Below you see one of the most recognizable images from U.S. history: Dorothea Lange's migrant mother, shot at a pea picker camp in California. This image has come to define the hardship of the era. First, let's take a look at the previous decade to set up our topic. The Roaring Twenties are known as the decade of economic growth due to new consumer goods like radios and affordable cars. Cities were alive with development, and there was a thriving underworld of speakeasies and the mob taking advantage of prohibition. The federal government was conservative and business-friendly, headed by Presidents Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, although Hoover's time with a booming economy was very short-lived. This was also an era defined by anti-immigrant and xenophobic attitudes, as seen in the Sacco and Vanzetti case, National Origins Act of 1924, which set quotas, and the second rise of the KKK. In the South, the Jim Crow segregation era continued, with African Americans stuck in perpetual poverty because of sharecropping cycle of debt. Some African Americans migrated to northern cities during and after World War I. They were met with racism in the North and relegated to specific neighborhoods. Some of those neighborhoods flourished. A great example is Harlem, where we saw the development of jazz and many great works from Black writers, thinkers, and artists. The Roaring Twenties came to a screeching halt with the Great Depression. A myriad of problems caused the economy to completely tank. Some of these include the collapse of the banking system, the stock market crash, decline in world trade, and an increase in inventories of goods not flying off the shelf anymore. These issues led to a rapid increase in unemployment, which hit 25% in 1932. This led to homelessness, as camps of homeless dubbed Hoovervilles, as many blamed President Hoover for not doing enough to alleviate the situation. Lastly, another example of how dire the situation was: World War I veterans were promised a retirement bonus, and many of them were demanding an early payment as they were struggling mightily. These veterans marched on Washington and made a camp there. Police and military forces broke up the camp in what would be the final nail in the coffin of Hoover's presidency. In the midst of the Great Depression, ecological disaster occurred on the Great Plains and spread across the country. Millions of acres of farmland was destroyed, and the entire population of the midsection of the country was in dire straits. California had some need for agricultural labor and placed some ads around the country. However, far more showed up than there was work for. Around 2.5 million people in total migrated away from the Dust Bowl states, and California did not have enough work for them. The migrants were met with derision. A favorite book of mine that covers this era is The Grapes of Wrath, and definitely worth checking out. Finally, let's take a general look at the New Deal itself. This will be just a broad overview. If you'd like more depth, I made another video about the continuities and changes of government's role in the economy. FDR swept into office with a lot of public enthusiasm. He brought in academics that he called his brain trust to come up with ideas to provide relief to the poor, economic recovery, and long-term reform. This would see the government take on new roles in the economy, like insuring savings accounts, hiring millions of Americans in various programs, and an old age pension program, Social Security. Some of these programs were thrown out by the conservative Supreme Court. Roosevelt threatened to add justices and pack the court. He would back down from the idea, and the Supreme Court backed off a bit from throwing out his New Deal programs. Overall, the New Deal had a mixed result in combating the Great Depression. It definitely lifted the spirits of many Americans, and it also made long-term changes in the role of government in the economy and people's lives. But it did not totally revive the economy. World War II would accomplish that, but with a terrible loss of life. Okay, that does it for contextualizing the Great Depression. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more AP exam review videos and primary source analysis.